when you hear the topic of this video, you might think that your kids have hacked into my comment section and suggested that I do this video. Today, I want to talk about, how to think about if you're planning on leaving your kids, your adult kids, money, how to think about, how much you leave them, and then also when you leave them the money, and really more the latter than the former. So first off, it's none of my business whether you want to leave money to your kids or not. That's a deeply personal decision. There is no right or wrong. It's just, what mom and dad or what you want to do to support your adult kids. Again, this is not judgment. I'm just going to share a couple things that I've learned through years and years of talking to people about leaving their kids money. So let's go for a walk and talk about this topic. Hopefully you find some of this information to be helpful. So, the first question is, do you want to leave your kids money? And I don't have a whole lot to share about this, right? I don't know your situation. But what I will say is, money can be a blessing and it can be a curse. And it doesn't take that much money to mess up a young person and for it to be more of a curse than a blessing, right? One of the things I joke with people about is, if a 21-year-old, if an 18-year-old specifically, particularly a boy, inherits $100,000 when they're 18 or 21, what's the first thing that they're going to buy? They're going to buy a car, right? And what color is that car going to be? It's going to be red, right? So, I have almost 100% success rate with car and red car. It's going to be a sports car, of course. So that just illustrates, and it doesn't take that much money to mess up a young person, right? At 18 or 21, you give them $50,000, it can be a negative thing, right? And this is deeply personal. Everybody does exactly what they want to do. You've worked hard for your money. You've raised your kids. You know your kids. I don't know your kids, but that's the first thing. Is boy, when kids are too young, it doesn't take a lot to mess up your kid if they're not used to being good stewards of money and investing it and not spending it today. So that's really all I have to say on amount of money. Other than, in general, the idea is you want to give them enough that it helps them thrive, right? It becomes fuel for them to be the best version of themselves, as opposed to throttle back. I don't think any of us want that for our kids, throttling back because they don't have to work. So that's one thing. The other thing, and I do have more thoughts on this, is, when do you give adult children money? At what age? And it tends to be, no matter how old the kids are, and whether your kids are 15 years old, 20 years old, or even 50 years old, when I see trust documents or, people in their will, more common a will, it tends to always be 10 years away, right? It's never like today. If something happened today, I guess in your will, if something happened, you had adult children in their 30s, you'd probably want them to have the money right away. But if you're setting up a trust, something like that, and you don't have to be uber wealthy to set up a trust. There's a lot of reasons that you would set up a trust. One is if they're married. I'm not an attorney, right? I'm not an accountant. And I do suggest that you work with a professional. But one common reason you would set up a trust is if they're married, it gives your child protection. Should they, hopefully they never get divorced, but if they did get divorced, it gives them protection where the money you left for them is their money. And, it's just too easy to commingle assets and lose that protection outside of a trust. So oftentimes people will set up a trust. Actually, if you're interested in a topic like that, let me know in the comments. All you got to do is leave one word, trust. So I know you're interested, and I can do a video on that. But getting back to the subject of when people get money, I've shared before, if you're 60 years old, you likely only have 1,000 weeks left of healthy active time. Well, that's a wake-up call for us, but it's also, if you do have 1,000 weeks, that's 20 years. So if you're 60 years old, that takes you to 80. How old are your adult children going to be when you're 80 years old, if that's when you pass away? If, in my case, if I pass away when I'm 80, my kids are going to be in their late 40s. At that point, they probably don't need the money. In fact, they're in their peak earning years, and I'm creating hopefully it's helpful, but in some ways I'm creating a tax issue for them. So actually leaving, for my wife and I, and one of the things I share with my clients is, it's probably much more beneficial for them to receive that money before you pass. If you think about the utility of money, the usefulness of money, right? When you're a young person, boy, saving for that first down payment on a house can be really difficult. And I'm not saying you give them the money, particularly if your retirement, if the numbers are close, right? The biggest gift we can give our kids is for mom and dad to be financially secure in our retirement. But if you have extra and you're planning on leaving them assets when you pass away, it's probably going to benefit them a lot more in their late 20s and in their 30s. And you can set up a trust to make sure that they're spending the money wisely, and they're not going out and buying expensive cars and depreciating assets. They're investing the money wisely. They're using it to help pay for their kids' college education. They're using it to pay off their house. They're using it to build their financial independence. That can be a powerful thing. But if the kids have to wait until they're 50 to inherit the money, at that point, a lot of our kids don't need that money. So I just encourage you to think through that. There's a really good book that frankly helped me solidify my thinking on this topic. That's always been my view. In fact, I was planning on writing a book myself in part on this topic. And then I read the book I'm about to recommend to you. And I said, you know what? I can't write a book as good as this gentleman did. It's a book by a gentleman named Bill Perkins, Perkins. And his book is called Die with Zero. Now, that book has a little bit of a shock factor to it, right? You don't want to die with zero, or, the problem is you don't know when you're going to die, right? If we knew the date and location that we were going to die, we could do some excellent planning. And job number one on that planning would be, again, if I knew the date and location, well, I'm just never going to visit that location, right? And hopefully I can hang around for a long time. But in all seriousness, if you haven't read that book, Die with Zero, it's fairly new. It came out in the last couple of years. Super powerful to help you think through if you're planning on giving your kids some money when you pass away. Is there a way to share that with them earlier in their life where it can have a higher utility and can have a better, a bigger and a higher impact on their life? So again, the book's Die with Zero. I hope you enjoy it. If you've read the book and you like it, let me know in the comments. I'd be curious how many people have already read that book. But again, just getting back to the concept, how much money do you give them? Again, you want to help them thrive, right? That's really the goal. And you want to make sure you're not giving sacrificially. And you want to make sure you're not giving up your financial independence to help them in this situation, because I don't think that helps anybody. Again, biggest gift we can give them is for mom and dad to be financially independent, for them not to have to worry about us. Although, I will say that's a very American way of looking at retirement. If you look at a lot of the world, it's really multi-generational, including my mother, which is, it's not that unusual here in the U.S. for an adult parent. My father passed away about 5 years ago, and my mom lives with my sister, who's 2 years older than me, so my sister's 60. And it works out really well for both because, my sister's children are out of the house, so she's got a house all to herself, and, her and my mom get along great, and it's good for both because they keep each other company. But I think for a lot of people, the goal is to be, financially independent and to not live with their kids. And I just want to encourage you, a lot of the world doesn't do it that way. And frankly, from my experience, a lot of the world that is happier than maybe a more material-focused United States. I think part of the reason that people in countries where they don't have as much as we have, I think part of the reason that they're I think they're happier than a lot of Americans, is in part, it creates this dependency on multiple generations in order to be able to provide the things that are important to us. So I think that intergenerational dependency can be a positive thing. So anyways, that's my thoughts on leaving your kids money. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, do me a favor, hit the like button for me. It really does help the algorithm. Know that this has been a good video for you. It helps the algorithm find other people that can find the video, and hopefully find this information helpful. Leave me a comment. I always love reading your comments. I think I read them all, and I try to comment on at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen every day. So if I haven't commented on, if I haven't replied on your comment yet, hopefully I'll be doing that soon. But thanks for watching. Again, hit the like button, leave me a comment, and as the young people say, thumbs for likes, hit the like button, subs for love, think about subscribing. And until next time, I'm Azul, encouraging you to take full advantage of the youth of your senior years. Remember, you're only young once. Use this time wisely.